Most vehicles are designed to solve transportation. These were designed to challenge reality itself. A car shaped like a flying aquarium, a delivery van inspired by a snail, a sports car built with deliberate asymmetry, and one machine so radical it balanced on just two wheels using aerospace physics. These weren't mistakes. They were experiments in how far engineering imagination could go. Today, we count down 10 real vehicles that ignored convention and forced the industry to rethink what a car could be. Starting with a machine that couldn't even decide what it wanted to be. Ranked 10th, Suzuki X90, identity crisis on four wheels. Before engineering pushes boundaries, it often creates confusion. In the mid-1990s, Suzuki attempted to invent something entirely new. A vehicle that blended the rugged DNA of an off-road SUV with the lifestyle appeal of a sporty coupe. The result was the Suzuki X90, a machine that looked like it had been assembled from two completely different design blueprints that were never meant to meet. At first glance, the proportions feel unsettling. A tall off-road stance supports a tiny two-seat body that appears almost toy-like, as if a compact sports car had been lifted onto a small truck chassis. The rear cargo space is barely large enough for everyday practicality, yet the vehicle still features available four-wheel drive, a capability typically reserved for machines designed to tackle rough terrain. One of its most distinctive features was the removable T-top roof panels, a design detail usually associated with performance coupes. Drivers could cruise under open sky while sitting noticeably higher than surrounding traffic, creating a driving experience that felt neither fully sporty nor fully utilitarian. Consumers struggled to categorize it. Was it a lifestyle vehicle, an off-roader, or simply an experiment in niche marketing? Ironically, the X90 later gained unexpected visibility as an advertising platform, often seen carrying oversized promotional displays mounted to its compact rear deck. It may not have defined a category, but it certainly proved that automotive designers were willing to explore entirely new ones. And if identity confusion wasn't strange enough, the next vehicle pushed transparency to an entirely different level. Ranked 9th, AMC Pacer, the rolling fishbowl that tried to redesign the American car. If most cars are designed around balance, the AMC Pacer was designed around visibility. In the mid-1970s, as fuel prices surged and American automakers faced mounting pressure to rethink efficiency, American Motors Corporation attempted something radically unconventional. Instead of simply shrinking a traditional sedan, engineers pursued a bold idea: create a compact car that still felt spacious inside. The solution was unlike anything seen before. The AMC Pacer featured an unusually wide body paired with a very short overall length, creating proportions that felt visually unfamiliar the moment it appeared on the road. Nearly 40% of the car's exterior surface consisted of glass, forming a panoramic cabin that offered drivers an expansive field of vision, rarely experienced in vehicles of its era. From the outside, the car appeared almost bubble-like, earning comparisons to a rolling aquarium or a transparent capsule moving through traffic. Yet beneath the unusual shape was a surprisingly logical objective: maximize interior comfort while maintaining urban-friendly dimensions. One of the most unusual engineering decisions involved its asymmetrical doors. The passenger side door was intentionally built several inches longer than the driver's side door, making it easier for rear passengers to enter and exit safely from the curb side of the vehicle. While the Pacer's appearance divided public opinion, its design reflected a genuine attempt to challenge established assumptions about how a compact car should look and function. It was not merely strange for the sake of being strange, it was an experiment in rethinking everyday usability. But if a glass-heavy car already seemed unconventional, the next machine took design inspiration from something far slower: a garden snail. Ranked 8th, Nissan S-Cargo, when design humor became industrial engineering. At the height of Japan's economic bubble in the late 1980s, Nissan experimented with a bold idea: what if commercial vehicles didn't have to look purely functional? The result was the Nissan S-Cargo, a compact delivery van whose design openly embraced visual humor. Its name itself was a clever wordplay. S-Cargo sounded nearly identical to escargot, the French word for snail, and the vehicle's rounded roofline deliberately echoed the shape of a coiled shell. Tall, narrow, and instantly recognizable, the S-Cargo featured exaggerated curves, protruding headlamps, and unusually shaped side windows that gave it a friendly, almost cartoon-like presence on city streets. Yet beneath the playful exterior was a practical urban tool, designed for small businesses requiring maneuverability in dense metropolitan environments. Its elevated roof allowed efficient cargo loading, while compact dimensions made it ideal for navigating tight delivery routes. It proved that even in commercial engineering, function and personality could coexist, and the next machine would push unusual proportions to a far more uncomfortable extreme. Ranked 7th, Scooter Car, the telephone booth that somehow became a car. Some vehicles are designed to dominate the road. Others appear almost afraid of it. In the late 1950s, British engineers known for building powerful railway locomotives attempted something completely unexpected: an ultra-compact car designed for maximum parking convenience in crowded urban environments. The result was the Scooter Car, a microcar whose proportions looked more like a vertical capsule than a traditional automobile. Its silhouette was unusually tall and extremely narrow, creating the strange visual impression of a motorized telephone booth moving through traffic. Instead of sitting behind a traditional steering wheel, the driver straddled a small scooter-derived engine and controlled the vehicle using motorcycle-style handlebars. The cabin layout pushed minimalism to an uncomfortable extreme. A second passenger could technically fit behind the driver in a tight tandem configuration, though the limited space made the experience feel closer to occupying a moving enclosure than a conventional car. Despite its toy-like appearance, the Scooter Car could reach speeds approaching 50 miles per hour, a surprisingly high figure considering its narrow stance and high center of gravity. It looked unstable even while parked, and yet it represented a serious engineering response to real urban constraints. But if this vertical machine already seemed impractical, the next design would feel even more like stepping into a futuristic capsule. Ranked 6th, Peel Trident, the bubble dome car that looked like a grounded UFO. If the Scooter Car felt like sitting inside a telephone booth, the Peel Trident felt like stepping into a spacecraft. Introduced in the mid-1960s on the Isle of Man, the Peel Trident abandoned nearly every visual convention associated with automobiles. Instead of a traditional roof and windshield, the vehicle featured a single-piece transparent bubble canopy that lifted upward to allow entry into the cabin. The entire upper half of the car opened like a fighter jet cockpit, revealing an interior so compact it felt more like a capsule than a passenger compartment. Its rounded silhouette, smooth body panels, and tiny three-wheel layout gave the impression of a miniature flying saucer that had simply chosen to remain on land. Visibility from inside the dome was remarkably wide, creating an almost panoramic driving perspective rarely experienced in conventional vehicles. However, this futuristic transparency came with an unexpected side effect. Under direct sunlight, the clear canopy could intensify heat inside the cabin, creating a greenhouse-like environment that made longer journeys surprisingly uncomfortable. Powered by a small engine typically found in mopeds, the Trident prioritized urban mobility over speed, offering a practical solution for short-distance commuting in dense environments. It was optimistic, experimental, and unmistakably unconventional. Yet compared to what comes next, even a bubble-shaped microcar begins to look normal. Ranked 5th, Dodge Deora, the pickup truck that removed the doors entirely. Most vehicles are designed around a simple expectation. You open a door and step inside. The Dodge Deora ignored that expectation completely. Introduced in 1967 as a radical custom concept, this futuristic pickup transformed a standard utility vehicle into something resembling a low-profile spacecraft designed for the highway. Its body sat dramatically closer to the ground than typical trucks of the era, creating an elongated wedge shape that appeared more aerodynamic sculpture than practical transport. But the most astonishing design decision was not the shape. It was the complete absence of side doors. Instead of entering from the sides, the entire front section of the vehicle, including the windshield and nose, lifted forward on a hinge system. Drivers had to step through the opening at the front of the truck, carefully climbing over structural components before lowering themselves into the cockpit. This unusual entry method was not created for practicality. It was created to demonstrate how far design imagination could stretch when conventional limitations were temporarily removed. Originally based on a Dodge pickup platform, the Deora became widely recognized after appearing in the first generation of Hot Wheels models, exposing millions of people to a vision of automotive design unconstrained by everyday expectations. It challenged the assumption that utility vehicles had to look utilitarian, and the next machine would take design rebellion even further by abandoning symmetry altogether. Ranked fourth, Plymouth XNR, the sports car that rejected symmetry. Automotive design has always relied on symmetry. Balance creates visual stability. Stability creates trust. The Plymouth XNR deliberately broke that rule. Unveiled in 1960, this experimental concept car looked less like a conventional sports car and more like a machine built for a comic book anti-hero. Instead of mirroring both sides of the body, designer Virgil Exner created a radically asymmetrical structure that treated the driver as the primary focus of the entire vehicle. On the driver's side, a dramatic aerodynamic fin extended from the cockpit and stretched far along the rear deck, forming a sculptural shape that immediately disrupted traditional expectations. The passenger side appeared noticeably lower and visually subdued, reinforcing the idea that this machine was engineered around a single central experience: the driver's perspective. Even the seating configuration reflected this unconventional philosophy. The passenger position could be covered, visually transforming the car into a single-seat land-speed machine. The design blurred the line between road vehicle and experimental prototype. Despite its unusual appearance, the XNR was fully functional, powered by a performance-oriented engine capable of impressive speed for its era. It was not simply a styling exercise, it was a statement that engineering creativity did not always need to follow visual equilibrium. But compared to what comes next, even asymmetry still obeys the laws of aerodynamics. Ranked third, Alfa Romeo BAT 7, when aerodynamics became sculpture. Most vehicles are shaped by compromise. The Alfa Romeo BAT 7 was shaped by a single obsession: airflow. Developed in 1954 as part of an experimental aerodynamic research series, this extraordinary concept car pursued one objective: reduce drag as much as physically possible. Every surface, every curve, and every angle was engineered to manipulate the movement of air across the body at high speed. The result looked less like a traditional automobile and more like a rolling wind tunnel experiment brought to life. Its most striking feature was the pair of dramatically extended rear fins that curved inward toward each other, guiding airflow smoothly along the vehicle's body. These sweeping structures were not decorative exaggerations. They were functional aerodynamic devices designed to stabilize airflow and minimize turbulence. The front of the vehicle tapered into a narrow, streamlined nose, while the cockpit sat enclosed beneath a smooth canopy, reducing resistance created by abrupt edges. The entire structure followed principles rarely applied so aggressively in road vehicle design during that era. The BAT 7 achieved an exceptionally low drag coefficient, rivaling, and in some cases outperforming, many modern performance vehicles decades later. It demonstrated how engineering precision could transform transportation into moving art. And yet, even this aerodynamic sculpture would look conventional compared to the machine that followed. Ranked second, Ferrari 512S Modulo, the car that looked like a landed UFO. By the early 1970s, automotive designers were no longer just experimenting with curves. They were experimenting with the future itself. The Ferrari 512S Modulo appeared less like a car and more like an unidentified flying object that had settled just inches above the road surface. Its silhouette was impossibly low, forming a perfectly smooth wedge that seemed to glide rather than roll. Traditional design elements such as doors, fenders, and exposed wheels were almost completely eliminated, hidden beneath a seamless aerodynamic shell. Instead of opening sideways, the entire glass canopy and roof section slid forward along concealed tracks, revealing the cockpit beneath. Entering the vehicle felt less like stepping into a car and more like accessing a precision-built experimental craft. Even the wheels appeared partially enclosed, emphasizing the uninterrupted flow of the body's geometry. The surface featured a series of carefully placed openings across the rear deck, allowing heat from the powerful V12 engine to dissipate without disrupting aerodynamic continuity. Every visual element suggested motion, even when standing still. The Modulo represented an era when designers were willing to imagine transportation not as evolution, but as reinvention. And yet, despite its spacecraft-like appearance, the next machine would challenge something even more fundamental than design. It would challenge balance itself. In first place, Ford Gyron, the two-wheeled car that tried to defy gravity. For decades, automotive engineering followed a simple rule. Stability requires multiple points of contact with the ground. The Ford Gyron challenged that assumption completely. Unveiled in 1961 during an era defined by rapid aerospace innovation, this radical concept vehicle proposed a future where cars would no longer rely on four wheels for balance. Instead, the Gyron was designed to travel on just two inline wheels, arranged like a motorcycle, yet enclosed within a long, sleek body resembling a jet-age aircraft fuselage. The secret behind this impossible balance was an advanced internal gyroscope system. As the internal rotor spun at high speed, it generated stabilizing forces strong enough to keep the vehicle upright even when stationary. In theory, the car could remain perfectly balanced at a red light without tipping over. To address moments when the system was inactive, small retractable stabilizing legs were integrated into the design, automatically deploying when the vehicle was parked. Visually, the Gyron looked like a fusion between a fighter jet cockpit and a futuristic land vehicle. A large transparent canopy enclosed the cabin, while chrome propulsion-inspired details at the rear reinforced its experimental identity. Although the technology proved too complex and expensive for mass production, the Gyron represented a bold attempt to rethink the fundamental mechanics of personal transportation. It was not simply unusual. It questioned whether the traditional definition of a car was necessary at all. From glass-covered cabins to asymmetrical sports cars and UFO-shaped machines, these extraordinary vehicles revealed a time when engineers were willing to imagine mobility without limits. And sometimes, progress begins by breaking every rule that came before. Some machines follow rules, others redefine them. Which of these would you actually dare to drive? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe for more unusual engineering stories most people have never seen.